Hello, my people. Yes, I consider you my people. So if you like this stuff, still trying to grow the channel, you know the deal. Like, subscribe, comment. Put a comment. Anything. I mean, you know, if you want to call me a tool, I guess you can do that. But like it and comment. That helps the algorithms, helps push this stuff. So as you know, I always go back and forth on what kind of knives I like to carry and always looking for that perfect knife. And we all know there's no such thing, right? You know, you might find one that's perfect for one day, but depending on what you're doing, then the next day you want something different. But I do keep going back and forth between your single blade. This is just merely one example of, I don't know, 40 or something that's in the drawer of different Spider Co's and Lion Steels and Microtex and other kind of good stuff, you know. But you've got your standard, you know, EDC, lightweight, single blade, one hand opening, locking. And, you know, that works if you just need a knife. You know, you could use it as a, let's say, a crime or aggression deterrent tool, let's put it that way, so we don't anger Facebook by using what it really is. But, you know, you can use knives like that for that. But then there's times where, you know, you want a tool, you know. You need to punch a hole in the leather belt. You need to tighten something down. You need a screwdriver, or even pry something a little bit. You need to open a bottle or a can. You need to actually, you know, maybe the blade isn't good enough for doing some, you know, fine kind of work like that. So, you know, cutting something. So you got some paper or some thin leather or something, and you need actually a pair of scissors. Or maybe you need a saw. You know, there's things you need, you know, as you go through the day and you're reaching for a pair of pliers, you're reaching for this. And so these little multi-tools become really nice. Now, I don't like the big traditional multi-tools like full-size pliers and all that kind of stuff. That's just not my style. I want it to be like a pocket knife. But what I would like here is, you know, usually I'm trying to decide. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm just going around town or something like that and I'm out and about, I'm usually carrying a firearm, but then I'll have a blade more like this. But then sometimes if I think, well, I'm likely to need to work on something in the bike or the yard or, you know, whatever it is, cutting zip ties, opening boxes, maybe I'll need a pair of scissors or a screwdriver and stuff, well, then I'll go towards one of these. The problem is when you want to combine the two into one ideal knife that does what this knife does and what this knife does in the same. Now with Victorinox, it's hard to get that because, well, we'll go through why. You know, they tend to have they have some of the features, but not all of them. So if you want a locking blade, they've got that. And this is the Adventurer. So it doesn't have the saw. The saw is nice if you're out hiking and camping, but on a regular daily basis, you want a good locking knife that allows you to stab or pierce something or use it in such a way that if you slipped, it doesn't close and start severing, you know, tendons and nerves on your fingers and send you to the ER for stitches. You've also got your bottle opener. You got your screwdriver. You got a can opener over here. You got a screwdriver. You got an awl here if you need to punch a hole in something. You got tweezers and a toothpick. So that's like a good tool. The problem is it's not a one-hand opening like this is. So Victorinox does have you covered. There are a couple knives like this that are, but they're kind of goofy and I find them awkward. The ones that actually do work pretty well are the older Wenger style that Victorinox bought that company. And there you've got that one-handed opening. You got one-handed closing. You have a liner lock here that you actually push here instead of over here. And here it's going the opposite direction. So it's a weird motion. Unless you're a lefty, then it's perfect. You know, if you're a lefty, then you can push that and your hand wants to go in that direction naturally. Here it's like you're wanting to push it this way, but you're having to pull it that way. It's backwards for right-handed people. I don't know why they did that. They should have reversed it, put the blade on this side, and have the liner lock go that way, like they do on the Wenger. In any case, the Wenger does offer that, but it's a big honking knife in your pocket. It's very, very large. It's not what I would consider EDCable, even though it does fit in your pocket. But that does give you that, but it's just so damn big. But then you've got, you know, one-handed opening, and you've got a locking blade, and you've got all your tools and stuff like that. But it's a big chunk of knife. So in steps these guys. And this one's almost perfect, and we're going to go over it. And then I'm going to explain to you how I think I can actually make it perfect. So I had an LD51 or 43 or something like that was green-handled, tried to dye the G10 with RIT dye, didn't work. It just made it gray. It didn't really work at all. And I did it properly. I used a lot of dye, had the water up to temperature, put it in there for an hour with some white vinegar, and it just, for whatever reason, it just didn't take. But the problem with that one was it was 9.5 ounces. It's massive. It's bigger than this. It's a 4-stack design. Has a lot of cool tools. And again, if you're out in an emergency situation, it's got a carabiner. You just click it onto your belt loop, and you've got like a serious kind of survival tool. But that's not what you want for EDC. So they do make other ones, and we're going to take a look at one, but it's missing one thing. But let's go through it. So it comes in a nice enough box. It's got the instructions. It's got all kinds of good stuff here. Multifunction tool, you got your warranty card, you got a catalog of all the other blades and things like that. And actually, we might be able to use that illustratively in the video here. So let's get all this stuff out of here. So what I've got here is the LD21. It is about 4.5 ounces, so that's about as heavy as I would want. It's on the heavier side, but it's only a two layer. What this has going for it, nice G10, not plastic. And Alox is really good. I like that. But you can scratch that, and I like the silver. I've got one in blue, but you will scratch it up. It'll look, G10 just takes a beating. If you find an edge here is a little too, sharp or something, you can take sandpaper. Don't hit the metal because you don't want to score that up. But you can lightly sand any rough edges on G10 and then just wipe it with a cloth, and it doesn't look like you did anything to it. You can actually kind of reshape that. But that traction is really good. It's really good wet traction. Here's what I like about this. Pocket clip. It doesn't seem to be reversible, but that's fine. I'm a righty. It will be tipped down. I would prefer it if it was tip up this way, but there's no real way to reverse it. But it has a pocket clip. Now, if you don't want it, you can just take that off. But I like the pocket clip. Here's what I also like. One-handed opening. And it's a liner lock. So it's got a really nice, pointy, stabby spear blade. It's 12... what is this? It's a Sandvik 12C27 steel. So this is a good, solid, pocket knife steel. It's actually, I would say this is better. The Rockwell hardness is 59-61. This is, I think, a better steel than what you get on Victorinox. This is good steel, and it will probably never rust. And it takes a good edge, but it's a little on the softer side. So it's fairly easy to sharpen, which is good. But this is definitely a step up in steel from that. This knife was around, I don't know, 40-something bucks. Nice smooth action. It is on phosphor bronze washers. You have your one-handed opening. You have your liner lock going in the correct direction for a righty. So very simple deployment. I'm sure once it loosens up, you'll be able to just flick it open like you would with the Spyderco. You're not going to be doing a Spidey flick with it like I just did there, but you can open this like that. Well, you can do that as well. And this is with a brand new, not even broken in knife. What I also like is you can adjust the pivot. So that we'll get into that in a moment because that's going to come into play on how I make this perfect, because there is one flaw in my mind. So what do you have on it? You've got that. You got your nice spear blade, nice usable blade, 3.3 inches, I believe that is, or is it 3.5? 3.5 with a cutting edge of 3.3. So that's a good size blade. That puts you up size-wise up there with the Adventurer. The Adventurer is a little bit lighter, not terribly so. This is probably more the weight of the Trekker, which has the extra layer in there and gives you a saw. What else do we have? So we got our blade, one-handed opening. We've got our screwdriver, bottle opener, as well as, I guess, like wire strippers or something like that. On the other side, we don't have a can opener. And I'm fine with that because how often do I use a can opener? However, there are times where I got to cut a zip tie off the bike or off of something, and I don't want to scratch the bike. And so reaching in with a blade and going and trying to cut, you slip and hit something. It's nice to have something that's angled back towards you that I can slip that, which it's not sharp. You're not going to really scratch much up with that. By the way, that's also for like small screws. But you can get it up inside and then pull. Now this is made for like if you had to cut a seat belt or something in an emergency situation. So that's a good tool to have. You got that serrated blade. You can hook a zip tie or something like that, or a rope, and just and cut through it, pulling it towards you nice and safely, rather than cutting towards whatever it is and then risking going through it and scratching it up. So that's a nice feature. I like that a lot. You've also got a glass breaker. It's not in the way. It's just there. If you had to bust out a window for some reason, you have that. Here's what I don't like. The only way with the Ruikes to get the Phillips screwdriver that I really want and kind of is one of my buying criteria, You can only get, I think, on the 43. There's a model 43, which is that yellow one, the rescue tool, has it here. However, the beauty of this is when you look at these, this is riveted together. Now, I've seen guys drill them out and they got the right rivets and the press tool and they can change the configuration. But you have to have all that stuff and be willing to do that and be willing to drill that out properly without missing and scoring up and messing up your slab. Here, same thing. These are stuck on. You got to pry these off carefully without breaking them. And then you've got rivets. So if you wanted to change a tool, you can, but you have to have the know-it-all. You have to know how to do it and have all the stuff. Here, this is not riveted together. Just like you can tighten the pivot. Like here, if you got a wobbly blade, you're always going to have a wobbly blade. It's only going to get worse over time. Here, you can tighten that pivot. So what you would do is, and what we're going to do in a follow-up video here is, and it's going to cost me more to do this, but in the end, I'm going to get the knife I really want. I'm going to have to go buy one of those other Ruikes, the larger one that's kind of too big to carry. And I'm going to take off the screwdriver and I'm going to swap it out with this corkscrew. Because then I'm going to have that basic tool set. This one comes as close as anything to the perfect EDC knife for me. Locking blade, both kinds of screwdrivers, can opener, bottle opener, and an awl, something for punching through. But it's not one-handed opening. This is as close as I can get. This one does, but it's just too damn big. This is down. I mean, there's a good size difference in your pocket. There's a big difference on the thickness. This is a really big knife. Perfect for camping, but not walking around. So here, I've got the added ability of having that clip as well as it being no thicker than this and only a little bit heavier. I just got to get that tool on it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to order one of those others, and I'm going to swap the tools around. What's nice about this is I can take out that screw. These are T6s. Take off the clip. This slab pops off. And then you can disassemble the whole knife yourself. Now, I won't recommend it because well, on this one, it's kind of small. It's all right. On some of them, you got so many pieces and all the washers and getting all the springs back. I mean, you better video yourself doing it so that you can go back and watch it and see how it came apart. Because when you're done, you're going to have like 52 pieces. And putting it together is going to be like a Rubik's Cube or something. But what I will be able to do is when I take these covers off, that screw right there, that goes all the way through to the other side. And one side is going to be basically like a shaft that goes through, and then the other screw comes in and locks it in place. So if I take these slabs off, I will be able to remove, if it's that end or that end, and slide that out enough to where this piece here will pop out. By pulling that shaft that goes through all the way, we're going to pull that pin or shaft out just enough. We're not going to disassemble the whole thing. We're going to leave the ends on here, maybe just loosen them just to take tension off. But we're going to pull that out so that this pops out, and we're going to put that Phillips screwdriver in and then tighten it up and put it all back together. And at that point, I'm going to have the perfect Swiss Army knife. Nicer, more stabby blade. Opens one-handed quickly. You can close it one-handed, unlike that one, easily. You got the pocket clip. And then I'm going to have the screwdriver I want. Because, believe it or not, I use a Phillips screwdriver all the time. Sometimes you're on the bike and you got to tighten something up, whatever. It's good to have a Phillips screwdriver. So that's the only downside to the Ruikes that I can see, or Ruike, I don't know how you pronounce it. I call it Ruike, is that it gives you all the things. It gives you the best combination of this and this, but it gives you the pocket clip in addition to that. I just need to get that screwdriver on there. But being able to just, and I'm not having to even flick it hard with my wrist. I haven't oiled it. I haven't done anything. I literally just took it out of the box. But you can just sit here and boom, flies right open. No appreciable blade play. It feels good. That's the other thing. There's less play up and down. On these, you got the liner lock, so it's not going to close on your hand. But that blade, you can hear it. A lot more blade play. Same thing here. A little less. Here, is a little bit, not much. The blade's a little thicker, and that's why it weighs a little more. It's just a little bit thicker. It's just a little bit, I think, better steel. And that pocket clip and all that. So let's see, what's the edge feel like? Ooh, feels good. I'm going to strop it just to make sure, but let's see. How does it slice? Yeah. Seems pretty sharp. We'll do a push test. Yeah, it actually does a push test. Let's try it out here. Yeah, That's a good edge. I'm running over the strop a couple times just to make sure there's no burrs on there. But for a factory edge on this type of knife coming out of China, really nice. It's all stainless. It's a Sandvik steel. That's a really good knife. All we got to do is get that Phillips screwdriver on there. So I'll do a video on how to mod this later. I'm going to go ahead now that I know that I like this. I wasn't going to order the other one until I got this and was sure, yeah, is it light enough? Is it good enough? Is it kind of what I'm looking for? And then I'm going to sit here and just put a little oil on there, clean it up, make sure there's no gook down in there. But yeah, that looks really nice. I like the way that feels. Got a half stop, well, 1/3 stop, and then snaps into place. So I'm going to go break this in a little bit, put a little lube down in there. But as long as you fire it hard, I'm sure that'll just get better over time. But I like having that one-handed opening and one-handed closing without it being this gargantuan in your pocket. I mean, when you put it here, it looks like it's almost as big because of the clip. But this thing's noticeably thicker. I mean, let's see. Let's just close this so I don't worry about cutting myself. Yeah, I mean, look at the difference in thickness there. That's a big difference. And it's 3/4 of an inch longer. It's just a big, beefy knife. It's a great knife, but not for EDC. So there you have it. You get the benefits with the Ruike of that, you know, decent, stabby, pointy, but sharp, you know, simple one-handed opening blade like the Spyderco. And what the hell's wrong with me? I can't open it. I don't know what I was doing. Ironically, I've gotten better at the Spidey flicks. I'm actually opening more knives with it that way, even though I constantly talk down to it. But in any case, that works, you know, pretty well. You're not going to do that here because there's nothing to grab it on. But you still got the one-handed opening. That's all that really matters to me. I don't care which way you have to do it for the most part. So really nice. I really like that polish. Wouldn't mind a stone washed, a little less reflective and stuff. Oh, but I guess that is screwed in. So if you were a lefty, I don't know how would that work, or would that fit? It might bang into that, so I don't know that you can reverse it. But anyway, that is the Ruike. Yeah, see, I don't know what I'm doing today. I think I'm pushing it outwards and swinging it rather than pushing straight up against the detent, and it just flies open. So whatever, every knife has a little bit of a learning curve, but it feels good. It's somewhat fidgety, but you know, not as much as like a Paramilitary 3 or something like that. But I can see some little bits of schmutz down in there. So we'll get in there with an old toothbrush and just clean everything out. Make sure it's all clean. Put a couple drops of lube. And I think we're going to just finish breaking it in. And now that I know I like it, I'm going to go ahead and order the Phillips screwdriver. I'm going to see if I can buy one. I wonder if I could buy that by itself. I wonder if anybody's made any that you could just buy. Because if they would sell this configuration, because I have seen that comment on the reviews of this knife, like on Amazon or elsewhere, they're like, man, if they just had it'd be perfect. It's the right size. They just had a Phillips head. It's like, how often are you opening bottles of wine versus tightening a screw or unscrewing something? I'm unscrewing something constantly. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the review. Stay tuned for the follow-up where we install the Phillips screwdriver. Let's see if my idea works. And if it does, man. Now, the downside is if you want to then create your own knife, you got to basically buy 2 knives. So I don't think it's going to be that cost effective. I'm willing to do it just to get the knife that I really want, that I wish they had made. Normally, I just wouldn't buy the knife. But this one's so close, and it checks so many of the boxes that I like, that I'm like, if I got to buy another knife just to be a donor for parts, then that might be, you know, what I do. So there you have it, folks. We'll talk to you later.